195 Chrysler said, what bothers me is we always seem to sell cheap but buy high. Take, for instance, Gakpo. Barcola is 140 million euro, then Gakpo is at least 100 million pounds, given length of contract compared to Barcola. So, a couple of things that will come into this equation. So you've got to look at the age as well. Cody Gakpo is now in his prime, probably at the tail end of his prime. Probably a year or two left in his prime. So you have to look at that, and you have to look at the buying club's potential there for the future. You also have to look at it and go, it's Cody Gakpo. You know, he's not a super... he's a good pro, a solid pro, but is he going to move a needle for a club, really? I don't know. And I would sort of disagree about us selling cheap. I think we sell cheap when the contractual situation means we have to sell cheap, like Curtis Jones. But look at some of the other money we've gotten over the years. I think we have gotten decent transfer fees for players who are at that point of their career. And £70 million for Cody Gakpo, I mean, I think that's all right, you know. And I think with Barcola, you're buying a 23-year-old, back-to-back Champions League winner, you know, who is right now doing it at the top level, whether it's at the World Cup with France, whether it's with PSG. So I would expect there to be a gap there in valuation. Plus, Liverpool have the future with him. You know, he's 23 now. So he's got, what, let's say 8 years minimum left. So if Liverpool kept him for 3 years and sold him, and I'm not suggesting we do that, he's going to be 26, 27 then. You could easily see if a Real Madrid or somebody came in the future, him being a 150 million quid player. So, and it's a seller's market. So, look, I don't want to be arguing or anything, but I think we do all right with sales for players that we move on to have 2 years or more on their deal. It's the ones that get down to 1 year that wind me up, like the Jones situation, like the Kelleher situation. That pisses me off because that's money left on the table. Mark said, if you get the feeling the Dutch players are not happy, this might be VVD's last season, I will cash in on Gravenberch and Gakpo, try and keep Maka. I don't know if the Dutch contingent, if it's in any way connected with Slot, or I don't know, because none of them were brought in by him outside of Frimpong. So it's not like they came in to play for that manager. But look, VVD's got a year to go. So whatever happens with him, I don't think we're going to see an extension there unless he has an exceptional season. Gravenberch being extended at least lets us know if we ever do sell him, we're going to get top dollar there because he's looked after contractually. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear from them. This is what I'm saying. This is why I love to be able to ask honest questions of players rather than the stupid shit that we see in press conferences where, you know, they're asked things that nobody gives a shit about really, but you're not allowed to ask difficult questions or questions that people actually like the answer to. Of all of them, it's always felt like since Slot got fired, the likeliest one to go was Gakpo. If you go back all the way to the end of last season, to the start of the summer, there was so much stuff around Cody Gakpo and a potential move away coming around even then. And it was just hypothetical at that point. Does Bezos' cash make the league for Liverpool again? Well, no, we still have to... We still have to work with the anchoring or whatever it is, the squad ratio thing. I mean, I'm getting confused and trying to keep up every year with this stuff, but you have the two thresholds, the 70% and 85%. 85% maximum expenditure, I believe, is for the Champions League, and the 70%, or excuse me, is for the Premier League, and the 70% is for the Champions League. But again, I'm not a football finance guy, so what I would say is, if I'm thinking initially about how Bezos can get money Liverpool's way, let's talk about what Mo Chathra said the other day. Liverpool have two big sponsorship deals coming up in the next 12 months. The front of shirt deal and the sleeve deal. So Manchester City went to war with the Premier League over associated party transactions. And they won their case, which meant that Etihad Airlines could give them 100 million quid a year. Now, there's nothing to say that Amazon, as an example, couldn't then come in and go, okay, well, if Manchester City's shirt sponsorship deal is worth £100 million a season, so's Liverpool's. So Liverpool can then go, okay, well, a £100 million deal with Amazon to be the front of shirt sponsor. And then they could say, okay, let's do something on the arm. And I'm just putting this out there because one of the other companies I know he owns. But let's say IMDb wanted to sponsor Liverpool shirts. Bezos owns that. Maybe Twitch comes in. Maybe you look at the Amazon side of it. Maybe Twitch become a sponsor. Maybe Twitch do some type of premium Liverpool content. There's definitely ways that they'll be able to increase Liverpool's financial wherewithal and the means that we bring in money. And that's probably what will lead to Liverpool being able to spend. So it won't be Bezos going, here's 150 million quid to go and buy Kylian Mbappe. It will be more a case of, well, let's help Liverpool on the books, and that will then let Liverpool to access the market. Because there's never been an issue for us being able to get our hands on money, or that we have restraints around it. But if we want to play longer term and keep moving money around, these are the smart plays, stuff like that. So that's what I would expect. But again, look at the likes of a Mo Chatra, a Swiss Ramble. These are the type of guys I'd be looking at for any football finance stuff if I was a fan. What's your prediction for Barcola in the Prem? Goals and assists, you said, sorry. I don't know. It's really difficult to make a guess in year one without knowing how quickly he'll be assimilated into the squad, let's say. How about I give you what I'd be happy with in year one for Barcola? 15 goals and, I don't know, 12 assists, 12 assists. So 12 to 15 goals, 8 to 12 assists. But again, I'm always somebody that doesn't actually care who scores the goals. I just want Liverpool to win games of football. And whoever scores, scores. And obviously, you know, it's important for us, but I want the goals to be shared around, because it felt like at times in the past it was get the ball, give it to Mo, he'll make it happen. But now somebody else has to step up, and I'm expecting a big season from Szoboszlai. I'm expecting Wirtz to step up and chip in with a lot more. Isak, well, you know, you're going to have to start paying back the £125 million that Liverpool paid for you there. So you'd expect him to step up and, you know, take the big bird. I guess the real question would be, who's going to be Liverpool's top scorer in the Premier League this season? I mean, it's probably Isak, right? But after that, you know, who else is going to chip in with a considerable amount? Bezos could buy Real Madrid. Bezos could buy every football club, every top 10 football club on the planet. No joke. He's worth 220 something billion. So he could buy Liverpool, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, Manchester City, Arsenal, all of them. That's the level of money this man has, which is kind of insane when you think about it. But, you know, that's the way of the world, isn't it, these days? Roshi, how are you, my friend? Instead of identifying value talent, we seem to just pay the asking price and hope for the best. Do we have scouts? Not my money, but it seems short-sighted. So what I would say is it looks as if we are making a lot of moves for younger players, right? And you've seen Premier League clubs in recent years, Roshi, really step up their efforts to bring in top underage players. You know, look at Ndokwo, the kid from Colombia, the attacking midfielder Martinez, and a few others that Liverpool have. So I think we are doing it, but the difference between Liverpool, let's say, and a Brighton is Liverpool don't really have the ability to take as many gambles anymore if we want to be constantly in the Champions League, because the pressure's there. The Premier League's really competitive. And in, let's say, La Liga, Barcelona and Real Madrid can probably coast through some games and rotate the teams a lot more. We've seen lots of times in the Premier League that if you're not fully at it, if you're not at the races in every game, surprises can come about quickly. So the pressure on managers makes it more difficult to, and not impossible, but more difficult to kind of nurture players through unless they're coming through the system. But I want to just ask you a different question, actually, if I may. It was a good point somebody made earlier on, and I don't know if I read it in the Echo comment section or somewhere else, but somebody asked a question that I've never really thought of before. Is there an issue at underage level for Liverpool with players who then come towards the first team? Because if you think about the amount of players who've had injuries recently that are in that 16 to 20 age bracket, there's been quite a few, right? Jadon Dance has had his injury struggles. Stefan Bajcetic has had his injury struggles. I think Will Wright had an injury, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And then we had other players like Cade Gordon, who never really managed to make the breakthrough. And it was never something I really thought about before until somebody mentioned it earlier on today, excuse me, and it just kind of jumped into my head, and I thought, I must remember to ask the chat that this evening. It certainly made for, an interesting thought exercise to sit there and think, shit, is there something to this? Because there has been a few in recent times, right, that have initially maybe made a step in, looked promising, and then their body starts to break down. So sometimes it could be a simple thing like growing pains or shin splints or, things like that growth spurts happen. But it seems to be happening quite a bit to us.